Greetings. So during live streams where I'm playing video games, people ask questions. So Yvonne writes them down. And I'm going to try to answer as best I can with these. Let me just turn that so I'm in the center. There we go. Penguins third line. I'm guessing it'll be just fine. Leafs top 4D. I honestly think the Leafs, as long as they're healthy, I don't think they're going to have a problem with defense this year. People can point out Zaitsev's not being very good defensively last year, but he's learning. I think he'll be better this year. Question about Pionk's play for the Rangers. I haven't watched a Rangers game yet this preseason. I tried to watch Buffalo and Toronto tonight, and it was really putting me to sleep. I just couldn't get into it. Leonard looked good, though. I'll just go that way. Rumors of the Canucks and Duchesne. Ottawa rumored that Colorado offered Chabot by the Sens. That rumor's been out there for a while. It wouldn't surprise me if Colorado turned it down. And I don't blame Sakic. We can all look at Chabot and say, oh yeah, he's a slam dunk to be a top 4 defenseman in the NHL. He hasn't played yet. If Sakic trades away Duchesne and the guy he gets back turns out to be a bust at the NHL level, or just, you know, a half-decent defenseman but not a top 4 guy, he's out of a job. He can only trade Duchesne once. He's trying to hit a home run with this one, and he's kind of botched it to this point. I understand why. I can understand his point of view, but yeah. Should there be a shootout? Yep. If you meet in the Olympics, I would like to see them go away from it. I know they won't. If you meet at the World Championships, I'd like to see them go away from it there. I know they won't there either. If it's a question of shootout in the NHL, it's never going away. The NHL will never accept, like the NHLPA will never accept an unlimited overtime during the regular season. And I understand it from the player's point of view. It'd be fun. It'd be fun if you got rid of the loser point, got rid of overtime points, and just had wins, losses. But realistically, it's never going to happen. Should the NFL expand to Canada? It's a football question, but I'll answer it. I don't think the NFL has any intention of expanding to Canada. I think they were looking at the possibility of Toronto because I think they're worried about the Buffalo Bills. But Toronto's reception to the Bills wasn't great by NFL standards, and thus I don't see Canada getting an NFL team. And also, it would pretty much destroy the CFL if they did it. Vancouver and Habs Scouts at Vegas Golden Knights versus Colorado. Well, of course. Scouts should be at NHL games, especially in the preseason, because everybody's playing. This is a great chance to see prospects. Jets make playoffs? If their goaltending holds up, sure. A question about how many points Tkachuk's going to get. I think 50 plus. It's really hard to project how much a guy's gonna grow in his second year. Third year is usually where that big growth happens. Is Ulevy overrated? Depends who's talking. I don't overrate Ulevy. I look at Ulevy and go, well, he's a prospect. We'll see what happens. And that's it. I don't compare him to other guys who are already in the NHL because that's foolish. Because if you look the first 2 years of their careers, Daig was ahead of Pronger. So there's that. We know how that turned out. Sam Bennett's points. How much is Bennett going to get? He'll get more than 26, I think, or else he'll be out of Calgary by the end of the year. Question about, somebody emailed me about Canuck pennants. Mildly interested in the Canuck pennants pictured. However, I already have one of them. Brian Boyle. I talked about Brian Boyle. I did a video on him. I don't think he's going to miss much time, if any. The guy's a warrior, and the form of cancer they found with him. As soon as you hear the word leukemia, you think of dying, right? That's automatic for any of us. But apparently the form he has is treatable by medication and treatments, and he may not miss any time at all. The question, why is Vegas so good? Because Vegas had to be good. They paid $500 million to get an NHL team. The NHL made sure expansion rules made it so they'll be competitive. I expect Vegas to lose by 1 goal very often. I expect them to be in every game, but I do expect them to lose regularly. They're going to be a very competitive team. They're going to be a very good team, and I don't think they're going to finish last overall. We can all debate over which teams they're going to finish ahead of, but I don't think they're going to finish last overall. Maximum number of teams, 34. I hope it's 32. See, every time you expand the NHL, you dilute the talent a little bit further. A really, really ambitious idea I had a while ago, and I just haven't had the courage to do it, is to redraft the entire league as if there was 21 teams and see just how much better every single team in the league would be if we had the same number of teams right now that we had in the 80s. If we had a 21-team league, how much better would every team be? Because it would be scary. You'd have legit NHLers playing in the American Hockey League. Bertuzzi's number retire ever? Sadly, because of the punch on Steve Moore, his number will never be retired. If not for that incident, I think there'd at least be talk about it in Vancouver. The other problem for Bertuzzi, he had a couple of very, very good seasons. Outside of that, he crashed pretty quick. The way he left Vancouver was kind of ugly. And again, I understand it's from the Moore thing and he didn't want to talk about it anymore, so he wanted out. But he didn't have a great start with Vancouver either. So, there's that. Question of whether or not Tyler Johnson and Andre Palat are overpaid. I don't think so. I don't think Tampa's overpaid anybody, really. I think they just have a really, really fantastic roster. Who does Dallas need? I think Dallas needs another defenseman. I'm not convinced that Dallas's defense right now is good enough for them to be a contender. And they need good health from Ben Bishop, because if anything happens with Bishop, if he goes down with an injury this year, I'm not convinced Lettinen is going to be a lot better than he was last year. Question about how many points Panarin's going to get. 80. My over-under with Panarin's 80. I don't care that he's in Columbus. I think his point totals are going to stay really high. I think he's a natural offensive player, and I think he's going to get 80 points. Will Goudreau win the Art Ross? No. Brendan Gooley. Well, you know, it's Buffalo, and they need rookies. So Gooley will have every chance to play. Whether he's any good or not, we'll find out. Most hated team in the NHL? It was Vancouver not that long ago. And it was Boston the same time. It was hard for me because my favorite teams were the most hated in the NHL. And I totally understood why. Boston, you had Marchand and Thornton. And for Vancouver, you had Lapierre, Burroughs, Kessler. There were still echoes of Matt Cook being Canuck. Like every rat-like player played for either Vancouver or Boston. It was really hard. Right now, Pittsburgh's the most hated team because they're the champs. That's what happens when you're champs. When you're champs, people hate your guts. We all look back on the 80s Oilers and Islanders as these great dynasties, but they were really hated by fans of other teams back then, too. It's a compliment when your team's the most hated in the NHL. First, Malcolm or Subban? I'm assuming that's first one to make the NHL will be Malcolm or Jordan. According to my NHL file on NHL 18, it's going to be Jordan. I don't know that either of them are going to be NHLers. Malcolm, I think this is his last year for the Boston organization, and then he's going to move on. Opinion on Nico Hischier's goal. Sorry, I had to stop cats from breaking out of the house. Nico Hischier's goal. I didn't really see it, and it's preseason. I try not to read too much into the preseason. It's hard. Really hard in some cases. How will that translate to NHL? I guess that's attached to the Hischier goal. Demko's development, with a question mark. Demko will be fine. He's a young goaltender. Young goaltenders struggle. It's just what happens. There's the occasional Tom Barrasso type that plays great right from the start. That's the exception. You should write a book about hockey with lightsabers. Why did she write that down? She wasn't drunk. Arvidsson, slow down. No. I like Victor Arvidsson a lot. I think he's going to score. He may score less goals. I think his points total should stay the same. Ivan Provorov for next year. I'm a huge fan of Provorov. Ask me about the Avalanche. They can't be as bad as they were last season. And Arturi Leikkanen points for Montreal. 40. So there you go. Those are all the questions she had written down on that wonderful piece of paper from the live streams that I did with NHL that I wasn't able to answer. And thank you for asking them. I hope I answered your question. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And I'll be talking about more hockey before tonight's through.